Hi, everybody. My name is Dr. Keith Duffy. I'm Associate Professor of English at Penn State. I am going to be your English 15 professor for the fall 2020. This is our little prep video. I'm not going to get into the specifics of what the course is about and what it is we're going to be doing and how grades happen and attendance and all that stuff, what the assignments are. We'll do that once we actually have our first class session on August the 24th. This video, I'm just going to be asking you to kind of do 4 sort of major tasks that are going to help prep you and prep your computer for attending our Zoom class. So if you can watch this video and follow along with me at least a couple days before our first class on August the 24th, it will really help you hit the ground running, and joining should make joining our class a little easier and a little less complicated, so you're not scrambling around, and it'll make my life easier, I hope. So first, it's best if you watch this video on the computer that you're planning on using to attend class. Either your own desktop or your own laptop, because I'm going to be asking you to visit a couple websites and to download and install a couple pieces of software that I'm going to be asking you to use over the next semester in our class in English 15. So in other words, if you're watching this video right now on your phone, you're probably not going to get a lot of help out of it. It's best if you come back to the video later on when you're actually sitting in front of either your laptop or your desktop and you can follow along with me. The idea is that I'm going to ask you to do a couple things, and you can pause the video and you can do those things, open up web browsers and do some things, and then just follow along. And by the end of this video, and I'm going to try to keep it short, by the end of this video, you'll be sort of ready to go, okay? One side note I do want to cover, in case you've been scrambling around trying to figure out what the textbook is for English 15, there isn't any textbook, believe it or not. I just saved you $80. You're welcome. I've been teaching academic writing for about 30 years, and about 20 years ago, I realized there was just no reason for me to have students spend money on a textbook. We can get everything we need for free on the net, pretty much, and we're going to be using the net, the internet a lot for research and stuff we're going to be doing. And I have tons of documents and examples and things I'm going to be sharing with you all semester to help us get through the class. So there's no reason for a book, but there might be a piece of tech or two that you might want to use, you might need to buy. You might not need to buy, depending on your computer setup, but I'm going to make a couple suggestions depending on how you're going to be Zooming into class and on what kind of system. There's a couple pieces of technology you might want to purchase to make our Zoom class a little bit easier. I think the overall total for those purchases is still going to be less than the cost of a book. And in some cases, some of you might not need to make any purchases at all, but I'll get to that in a second. So I mentioned there are 4 items that I'm going to be asking you to kind of pay attention to, that I'm going to work through over the next few minutes. And these are those items there. Oh, before I hop onto the 4 items, let me go down to the bottom here and just show you this. In case you're having any technical problems with any of the websites that I'm asking you to visit or any of the software that I'm asking you to download and install right now, you should go to this website, which is schuylkill.psu.edu/campus-life/IT/lab-hours. I'm gonna show you that website just so I show you what it looks like. It is this puppy right here. This is the Kotler Computer Center, Penn State Schuylkill website. And you'll notice there's this little contact us square down here. There's a phone number, which is 570-385-6212 that you can call for help. There's also an email address that you can write if you have a less pressing question. Calling the help desk is probably the best thing if you're having like immediate technical problems. You can contact me too if you're having problems, but I'm probably not really going to be able to help you much if you're having technical issues. So really contacting the Kotler Computer Center is the best thing to do. If you do need to contact me for anything, by the way, here's my email address, which is wkd2@psu.edu. You can contact me if you have questions about the class, but again, I'm not going to be covering any content of the class or how the class is going to be structured, how it's going to be organized, what we're going to be doing. We'll do all that stuff when we actually have our first class session, okay? So the 4 items I want to cover today, and by the way, all these websites we're going to be visiting, there's 4 places. They are going to require your Penn State ID, which is your initials grouped together with some numbers. It might look something like WKD2597. That's your Penn State ID. And it will also, all these websites will require your password and also your second factor authorization, which you probably have connected to your phone, probably. I think once you sign in the first time on the first website we're going to be looking at, which is going to be the Penn State Zoom site, I don't think you'll have to sign in for any of the other sites that we visit, but you might. If you, if you stop watching the video and you come back later, you might have to, log in again to some of these sites. But these are all official Penn State sites, and once you sign into one of them, you kind of sign into all of them. So we're going to talk about Zoom, and I'm going to show you the main Zoom page and what it looks like. I'm going to ask you to do 2 things on the Penn State Zoom page. Then we're going to look at Canvas. Many of your classes are going to be very heavily using Canvas. You'll be taking tests on Canvas and taking quizzes on Canvas. You'll be engaging in forums on campus or on Canvas. But we're not going to be using Canvas that much. We are going to be using Canvas for one very important thing. But Canvas is kind of a light place for us. You'll just be going there pretty much for one item, and that's it. Many of your classes your syllabus will be located on Canvas, and your calendar will be on Canvas. Not for our class. For our class, all that classroom-related stuff, all those classroom-related documents are going to be on Box instead. I know Box is probably new to many of you, but one of the things I'm going to ask you to do over the next 20 minutes or so is I'm going to ask you to create a new free account for Box. And I'm going to show you what Box looks like and what you'll find there. But basically, all of our classroom content is going to be existing on Box. Last thing I'm going to ask everybody to do is I'm going to show you the site to go to download Microsoft Office, which includes Microsoft Word. I am going to be asking everyone to use Microsoft Word for all the writing that we're going to be doing in English 15. I know those of you who love Google Docs, I can hear you screaming in the background already anyway. But I am going to ask you to use Microsoft Word and to leave Google Docs behind for English 15. There are other word processing programs that you're going to want to sort of stay away from. If you own a Mac and you're using Pages on a Mac, that won't work either. The good news is that you can download a brand new latest free copy of Microsoft Office that includes Microsoft Word and PowerPoint and a bunch of other stuff we're not going to be using. We're just going to use Microsoft Word, but other classes might use things like PowerPoint. But you can download this for free. It's not actually free. You actually already paid for it through your fees, but I am going to ask you to visit a particular Penn State site and show you how to download and install the latest version of Word on your computer. Okay? So the first item I want to discuss is Zoom. I'm going to show you the Zoom page. And again, I'm going to try to do this as quickly as possible. If you need to pause the video to sort of catch up with me, then do that. I'm trying not to take up too much of your time because it's still summer, I know. So this is the Penn State Zoom page. And there are 2 things I want you to do here. The first item is, if you look in the second block of yellow text, you'll see the Zoom Download Center. There's a button here you can click, part of the text. And if you click this, it will take you to the Zoom Download Center. You are going to want to do this. Even if you've been using Zoom already for other reasons or some other classes or something, clicking on that will take you to the Zoom Download Center, and you will be able to download the latest Zoom client for meetings. And that's this first button right here. You're going to want to click this button, and it's going to download a very small file that's called zoominstaller.exe. Here it is right here, zoominstaller.exe. Once this downloads, you're going to double click it, and it will install the latest Zoom client onto your computer. The reason you want to do this, even if you've been using Zoom already, is this is the latest client. It's a Penn State specific client, and it's encrypted. If everybody has this latest client, it means that you are safe, and it means that random weird people can't come into our class and bug us. So it's important that you install this. Okay. Again, On the big blue page, you're going to click this Zoom Download Center. It will take you to this Download Center. You want to click this Download button, and then that Zoom Installer EXE will download. Double click it. When you do double click it and install it, when it finishes, it'll say, you've got Zoom, and what do you want to do? Do you want to host a meeting? Do you want to join a meeting? What do you want to do? And you don't really want to do any of those things right now. So when you get that little message that pops up on screen when it's finished, you can just close it out. And that'll be all you need to install the latest Zoom client. Back on the big blue screen here, there's one other thing I want you to do. You'll notice 3 separate buttons. You can join a meeting, which, by the way, you will be able to join our classroom session from this blue page, but there's going to be a quicker, faster way for you to get to our class, actually, which I'm going to show you in a second. It's on Canvas. But if for some reason the Canvas link to join our class, our Zoom class, isn't working, you can always come to psu.zoom.us, and you can come to the blue page here and you can hit join, and you'll be able to find our class and join our class this way too. But actually, you might not really need to come back to this blue page ever again after doing these few things that I'm asking you to do. I know it's kind of weird, but another button here is you can host a meeting. You know, you can host your own meeting. You can get all your friends together and have a virtual party or whatever. We're not going to be using that, but there's one other thing I want you to do here, and that is to click this button that says sign in. When you click this sign in button, again, this is going to require your Penn State ID and your password. It's going to take you to your profile page. And the important thing, the reason why I want you to click that sign in button is because when you click it, Zoom dumps a cookie onto your computer, and it identifies you as an authenticated Penn State user just by hitting that sign in button. That's it. This will make life a little easier when you come to our first class session. You won't have to fiddle around. It'll just make it sort of like a one-step deal, you getting into our class, and you will be authenticated as a Penn State student just by clicking that sign-in button. But when you do click that sign-in button, it brings you to your profile, and you don't need to change anything here. You can poke around it and look at some of the settings if you want to. On your profile tab here, you can upload a picture of yourself. This is a picture of me long before I got gray hair. Probably time for me to update that, huh? Anyway, you can upload your own picture if you want to. The point of this picture, by the way, is if you join our Zoom class and you don't have your camera on, instead of showing a live video feed of you, it'll show this picture instead. So if your cam is detached or if you have it turned off or something, it'll just show this static picture instead. So upload a picture of your dog, or your cat, or your squirrel, pet turtle, whatever it is you have, or you can upload a picture of you, or you don't have to do anything. But you don't have to do anything on this page. The important thing is that you're just clicking the sign-in button, which will pre-authenticate you so that when you join our first class on August the 24th, it'll be a done deal. Okay, so the next thing I want to discuss is some of the tech requirements for our class. So you're either going to be, so our class is going to be meeting on Zoom, right? And Zoom is going to allow us to meet in real time. It's called remote synchronous. Remote just means we're not together, we're separated. Synchronous means all at the same time. So we're going to be meeting face-to-face, but it's just going to be on our computer. Some of you have done this already. Some of you might be coming out of high school situations that because of COVID, you had to do remote learning. So you might be kind of familiar with this, but some people might not be familiar with this way of doing things. But what we're going to be doing is we're going to be meeting at a specific class time, depending on what section of English 15 you signed up for. We're either going to be meeting at 9:05, that's section 050, by the way, or we'll be meeting at 10:10, that's English 15 section 1, or we'll be meeting at 1:25, which is section 2. And all of the classes will meet on Monday and Wednesday. So we'll be meeting live, face-to-face, in real time on those days and at those times. And I'm going to show you the button that you can use to get to our class in a second. You might be wondering about the Friday part of our class, and I'll talk a little bit more about that when we have our first class session on August 24th. But for right now, the plan is to have active live classroom sessions on Monday and Wednesday at those times, depending on what section you're in, okay? So you definitely want to show up to class at that time, and attendance is going to matter. I'm not going to talk about attendance now. I'll do that again on our first class day, okay? But there is one thing you want to think about, and that is, and you want to think about it ahead of time, and that is, for our Zoom class, you really want to be in a quiet, distraction-free area, right? I mean, if you're on your laptop trying to attend class and you're like at a club or something, it just doesn't work very well, right? You want to be in a space where you can hear things and you can pay attention, and your attention isn't going to be all over the place. So you want to think about that now. Technically, you want to think about attending a Zoom class as if you are sitting in a classroom, right? So ask yourself the question, where do I want to be when I'm Zooming into class, and make that happen so you can be in a space where you can really pay attention. I guess that's a given, but it might not be something that you really think about ahead of time, but it should be. So be thinking about that now, okay? So depending on the kind of computer you're Zooming into class on, you might want to make a couple purchases. Okay, so here's my crappy laptop. And sorry, I'm hitting my mic. If you're using a laptop, you're probably good to go. Most laptops have a camera on them already. There are speakers built in. There's usually a microphone connected to the camera. And this is pretty much an all-in-one situation. This is all you need for class if you're using a laptop of some kind. This should do the trick. There'll be a camera so I can see you. You have the screen so you can see me and everybody else, and there'll be speakers so you can hear everything, and there's a mic so you can ask questions and that kind of a thing. But some of you might not be using a laptop. Some of you might be using a desktop, and desktops don't necessarily come with mics and speakers and cameras. So if you're using a desktop, there's a couple purchases you might want to make. And this is, there's one purchase I think you definitely want to make, probably, and that is a headset with a microphone. I just spent 20 seconds on Amazon hunting around for this, and I found this. It was a super cheapie. I cannot vouch that like these aren't incredibly uncomfortable, and they're going to make you want to rip your ears off your head. It might. You can hunt around if you think you can find a more comfortable one. But these basically plug into your desktop, and it'll allow you to hear us, and you can talk to us during class. This is a cheapie. It's only 12 bucks. So you don't have to spend a mint on these things, right? You don't have to spend a whole lot of money unless you want to. There are way more expensive models that are probably a lot more comfortable, and you can look around for the best deal. If you have a laptop, you probably don't need this, unless you know your laptop has really crappy speakers or a really crappy mic, which it might. Then something like this, you could plug it into a laptop too, okay? So keep that in mind. So at a minimum, you're probably going to want to have this if your desktop doesn't currently have a tech like this, if you don't own something like this. The other thing is a webcam. You know, desktops, again, unlike a laptop, which probably has a webcam on it, desktops don't. And so I just found a cheapie webcam that you can use on your desktop here. It's 40 bucks. So let me just tell you very quickly about webcams. Penn State has a privacy policy that I can't force you to use a webcam. If you don't want us to see you, if you don't want us to see where you live or something like that, that's cool with Penn State. You don't have to use a webcam. So even if you have a laptop, if you decide to turn your webcam off or to put a piece of tape over the camera, which a lot of people do, that's okay. It's best if you do have a camera, I will say. It helps me if I can see you. You're able to raise your hand more easily and ask questions, and it's just an easier way to communicate. It's a better way for us to have class if we can actually see each other. But I just want to let you know about that policy. If you are on a desktop that does not currently have a webcam, you might want to purchase one. Okay? It's up to you. Okay. I think that's it. So we're ready to move on to item number 2. Okay. So item number 2 on our list is Canvas. I want to talk about Canvas. I'm going to do this very quickly. We're not using Canvas very heavily, but we are going to be using it for one really important thing. Canvas is located at canvas.psu.edu. This is the page you'll see when you log on to Canvas. And the login is here, Canvas login. Again, this is going to require your Penn State user ID and your password. And once you get into Canvas, this is what you're going to see. And if you've already been to Canvas, you've already seen this. There's not a whole lot here. That's because we're going to be using Box instead, which we'll get to in a second. But we are going to be using Canvas for one very important thing. So the home page on Canvas for English 15, there's just this goofy little message that I wrote. Basically says, welcome to Canvas, and we're not going to be using it very much. We're going to be meeting on Zoom. By the way, you can click any of these, and it'll take you to the Zoom link I'm going to show you in a second. There's also a link to Box, which we're going to talk about in a minute. And there's also a link here for you to download the Microsoft Word, but we're going to run through that in a couple minutes, okay? We're going to be using Canvas really, so the syllabus is not going to be on Canvas. Our calendar is not going to be on Canvas. Assignments are not going to be on Canvas. All that stuff is going to be on Box, and I'll show you that in a second. There is one important thing that we're going to be using Canvas for, though. In order for you to come to class, the easiest way for you to come to class when it's time is to log on to Canvas and to go over here to this menu item that says Zoom. And if you click on this, or if you click on any of these where it says Zoom, by the way, but if you click on this, it'll show you our Zoom join button. It's basically the button for our class, and you'll hit this join button and it'll take you to class. This is the section 1. It says 10:10 to 11 o'clock. But if you are in the 9:05 section, this will say 9:05. If you're in the 1:25 section, this will say 1:25. Either way, if you click this join, what this join button will do is it'll activate that Zoom client that I just had you download, and it'll give you a chance to join class. This is probably the easiest way for you to attend class, is to come to Canvas and join our class this way. But if for some reason this isn't working, I just want to show you this. See here, it says a meeting ID. If you copy this meeting ID and you go back to that big blue Zoom page, that's psu.zoom.us. If you go to join, it'll take you to another page, and it'll give you a place where you can paste in that meeting ID, and then you can hit join, and it'll take you right to our class as well. So it's just another way to get to it, but there are extra steps involved that you probably won't need to use. Really, all you need to do is come here to Canvas, hit the Zoom menu button, and it'll take you to this join button, and you'll be able to join our class. There's just one other thing that we might be using Zoom for. I'm sorry, using Canvas for. Over here on the gray menu, you'll see a button that says Inbox. We're going to be talking about Box in a second. Box is where kind of all of our stuff is going to be. But the one thing is that Box doesn't have a messaging system like Canvas does. So remember that you do have Inbox here. And if you click the Inbox button, basically it takes you to Canvas's messaging function. And you can send me a message from here. This is compose a new message up here. So if you need to contact me for some reason, Canvas is a pretty good way to do it. Of course, you can always just email me too, okay? But those are really the only two things we're going to be using Canvas for. So that's our Zoom link to our class is going to be there. And if you need to send me a message with the inbox, you can do that. Where our class is going to sort of mostly be located is going to be on Box. Okay, so let me just show you where we are on our list of topics here. We're talking about our third item, which is box.psu.edu. And I'm going to ask you to make a Box account right now. So you're going to want to open up a browser, and you're going to want to go to box.psu.edu. And when you do that, here's what the Penn State Box page looks like. There we go. So this is the Penn State Box page. There's a login button right here, which you'll hit. Again, this is going to require your Penn State user ID and password, as always. You'll get used to using it a lot. You'll memorize all that stuff very quickly. But once you log into Box, this is basically what you're going to see. Oh, sorry, my bad. Here's what you're going to see. There's going to be two folders, pretty simple. And these two folders, they both say Eng 15, which means these are both for English 15. And one of the folders says English 15 portfolio, and then it's going to have your name on it. It's not going to say your name, but it's going to actually have your actual name on it. This is your personalized writing portfolio. I'm going to talk more about this on our first class day, what this is all about. But this is an extremely important set of folders. This is where you're going to be collecting all your writing the entire semester. This folder is 100% of your grade. So you have to treat it very kindly. And make sure you're putting stuff into it when I say so and blah, blah, blah. But we're going to be talking about that. Canvas doesn't let us do this. This is why I use Box instead, okay? And then there's a second, and by the way, you can click into this, and if you click into it, you'll actually see these are all the essays that we're going to be writing. There might actually be, you'll see there's only 1, 2, 3, 4. When you're looking at your page, you might actually see 5 folders, but meaning I'll be adding another essay here. This is a different example for a different class I'm showing you. But basically, yours will look like this. And right now, these are just a bunch of empty folders. They're empty because you haven't put anything into your portfolio yet. But we're going to be, this is essay 1. It's called Taking a Position. Essay 2 is called Taking a Position Again. Essay 3 is called Proposing a Solution. And we might have an essay 4 in here, and then we'll have an essay 5, which is a final self-reflection. I'll talk about that during our first class day. But this is your personalized portfolio, extremely important, right? box.psu.edu. The other folder, if you back out to the main menu, the other folder says Eng 15, Class Materials, Fall 2020. This is where all of our class materials are going to be. If you open this, you'll see that there are, there's a folder for our calendar and our syllabus. I call it requirements, but the requirements is the syllabus. There's a formatting guide we're going to be using. We're going to be referring to some of this stuff. There's an example portfolio, which is what your writing portfolio should look like by the time we reach December 11th, I think is our last class period. And then this is also where you'll be going to get all of our writing assignments. Okay, and also examples, essays and things. This is all the stuff that for a lot of your other classes are on Canvas, but not for us. We're going to use Box instead. So it's just those two folders, pretty much, in Box. Don't think I have anything else to say about Box, except, oh, I do want to mention, when you go to Box, and you probably already figured this out, it's going to ask you to sign in. And I believe the way Box is currently set up is as soon as you sign in, it creates an account. And that should be it. There shouldn't be anything too complicated. There might be 1 or 2 buttons that ask you, are you a Penn State student, or is this a Penn State account, or something like that. Of course, just say yes. But signing up for Box is pretty much automatic as soon as you sign in. At least that's how it's been in the past. If you have trouble signing into Box or creating an account, you can go to the Kotler Computer Center and tell them you're having trouble. You can email me too, but hopefully you won't run into any trouble once you hit Box. It's pretty simple to use and pretty much automatic. So the last page I want to show you, I have to type it in here, is really important for our class, and it has to do with downloading and installing Microsoft Word. So the website is office365.psu.edu, okay? And you're going to want to open a web browser right now, and you're going to want to go to office365.psu.edu. Again, if you need to pause the video so you can open up your web browser and go to that site. I'm going to show you what the site looks like now. It looks like this. And you're going to want to log in. Again, it's going to require your PSU ID and your username and your password. And I'm going to ask you to do one basic thing on this page, and that is to download and install the latest version of Microsoft Office, which includes Microsoft Word. Okay. Once you get into office365.psu.edu, this is the page that you'll get into. And there's a specific menu here that I want you to pay attention to. I'll talk about some of these in a second, but what I want you to do when you get to this page is there's a button here that says Install Office, and I want you to click on this, and the first item on this drop-down menu, it says Office 365 Apps. You're going to want to click that. This is going to take some time, but what it's going to do is, again, you probably have to log in again, just so it knows that you're a legit Penn State student. But this will install Office, Microsoft Office, the latest version of Microsoft Office onto your computer. Again, if you were buying this out of pocket, this probably cost you about $300. This won't cost you anything. Well, like I said, it's already part of your fees, so you've paid for it already. This will install Microsoft Office, which includes Microsoft Word, which we're going to be using. But it doesn't just include Word, it also includes Microsoft Excel, which you might use for some classes. It includes Microsoft PowerPoint, which you might use if you're taking a speech class or something. You might use PowerPoint slides. We're not going to be using that, it's worth having, is what I'm saying. You might use it in a lot of your classes for different reasons. It also includes some other things, but you want to hit this and you want to download it. I'm getting a little bit ahead of myself, but I am going to be asking everybody to use Microsoft Word for the writing that we're going to be doing. We're essentially, English 15 is, we're going to be spending time writing a lot of essays, and I want you to use Microsoft Word. The reason for that is because I need to be able to open your essays in order to put comments on your essays, which I'm going to be doing, and I only use Microsoft Word, and Penn State only lets me use Microsoft Word. So everybody needs to use the same program. Other students in class are also going to be opening up your essays and putting comments into your essays and reading your writing. And they need to be able to open your paper too. So we need everybody using the exact same program. And that program at Penn State just happens to be Microsoft Word, which is part of Microsoft Office. So let me mention this. If you already have Word installed on your desktop, you might not have to do this. Or on your laptop, you might not have to do this. In my experience, if you have an older version of Word already installed on your computer, usually it will work fine. But if you want to update to the latest version already anyway, I mean, it's there and all you have to do is sign in to grab it. So it might be worth grabbing it. I also want to mention Chromebooks. If you're using a Chromebook, the process is a little different. If you're using a Chromebook, you're going to go to the Chrome Web Store. You're going to search Word online, and you're going to add to Chrome is how it'll work. So it's going to work a little bit differently if you're on a Chromebook. I want to show you one other thing here on the Office 365 page. I said I'd come back and I'd talk about these a little bit. So you see this one, the blue W says Word. This actually, if you click on this, it will allow you to open up a new document, even if you've not installed Word. You're just in your browser. You're just in your web browser. If you click on this, it'll open up a page, and it looks like it's opening up Word, even though you haven't installed Word on your computer, and you can start typing. This is Word Online. And I know it looks super handy and like, oh my God, I could just use Word like this. I don't even have to install anything. But the problem with this is that using Word Online, all of these menu items are very different than the menu items that are in the installed version of Word. And as we get into the course, I'm going to be showing you how to do some very technical formatting things. We're going to be doing pagination, which is a way for you to number your pages and etc. And how you do those things on Word Online is different than the actual version of Word. Look at these menu items. See the menu items here? Now let me show you what the menu items look like in actual Word when you install it on your computer. This is what the menu items look like. You can see it looks very different here. And this is what I'm going to be using and showing you as I'm showing you how to do certain things in the class. I'm not going to be showing you how to use Word Online, which is different. Okay, so the word online, unless you really have to use it, I prefer that you install Word onto your actual computer instead. Okay, so that's the deal with the word online, and kind of avoid it. The best thing for you to do is, again, install Office 365 apps and actually install Word onto your computer. There are other complications with using Word online. I'm not going to get into them yet. I can talk about them on our first class day, but just I'm telling you what really is the best thing that is going to make the smoothest sailing in our class. So there's one other thing I want to mention. It's about Google Docs. I know some of you might not have ever used Google Docs. I know some of you love Google Docs. It's the only thing you use. And I will tell you now, Google Docs is just not going to work for this class. Sorry, but really you're going to want to have installed Microsoft Word and have it on your system. I know some of you know how to download a Google Doc as a Microsoft Word doc, but I've seen students just whittle away so much time fiddling with Google Docs, trying to make a Google Doc work inside Microsoft Word. And I just look at them and shake my head, and I think just use Word. You're just creating so many problems for yourself. So really, I know you think maybe you can make it work, but just leave Google Docs behind and use Microsoft Word from the get-go instead. It's not that difficult to learn. It's not that different from Google Docs. It's not like you're learning a new language or something, right? So just trust me on this. It will be worth your time and a lot of saved headaches if you just let go of Google Docs. For English 15, you might keep using Google Docs for other classes, but for our purposes, you want to be using Microsoft Word instead, okay? Okay, so this brings us to the end of the English 15 prep video. Sorry it took as long as it did. I wanted to make it faster, but I'm kind of covering a lot of ground. And if you can do these things before we have our first class meeting on August 24th, I think things should go pretty smoothly for the most part. Fingers crossed. Again, if you're having technical problems, go ahead and contact the Kotler Computer Center website that I showed you. And you can email me if you have any other questions in the meantime before we have our first meeting. But for now, good luck. Enjoy the rest of your summer, and we will be seeing each other on Zoom very soon. Bye for now.